So I thought maybe we would sort of go counterintuitive and instead of starting at the beginning, start at right where you are and maybe talk a little bit about what your life is like now, what a typical day is like with, because people, even Catholics, don't necessarily have a real clear idea of what things like vigils, lauds, vespers, compline, is it, what is it?
Compline.
Compline. See, I can't even say the name. If you could just maybe talk a little bit about those things and how what's the rhythm of your day like?
Well, it depends on the day, but you mentioned the hours is what they're known as that we pray together in community. Vigils is at 6:30. It's our first communal prayer of the day. It's probably the longest one of the hours. It's an office of prayers and a couple of readings, one from the scriptures and then one from some Catholic author. And then we have quiet time from about 7 to 8:30, at which time we have lauds or morning praises. Again, almost half an hour. Because we no longer have a chaplain, we incorporate into it a communion service. And Thursdays, we have it a little earlier because we have Father Sami, who has this long Indian name that I really can't pronounce, who comes out for Mass at 9 o'clock. And we can almost understand him. He's a wonderful man, but a bit of a challenge sometimes because of the language difficulty. So, but normally every other day we just have lauds at 8:30. Then we have our work time. We have our main meal at noon, which we eat in silence, listening to either a CD or some music, or like right now we're listening to a series of their tapes. Actually, they're older, from I can't think of the name of the company, but they do all of these different lecture series. Probably some of you are familiar. I think it's called the Learning Company, but there's another name for it. I can't think of it. And it's on the Old Testament is what we're listening to right now. So then we have some free time. Then we have some more work time. At 5 o'clock we have Vespers or evening prayer. We have a light supper around 6. We watch the local news. And after that, we might spend a little time. We have our recreation time. It alternates for us right now between we're working on a jigsaw puzzle, or occasionally we play Monopoly, which Sister Bernadette invariably ends up winning, or something like that. And then we have Compline at 7, and a little more free time, but usually I'm quite early to bed.